The Ghana Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors is calling for the establishment of a presidential commission of inquiry to probe allegations of bribery and collusion between officials of BOST and the chamber. Top officials at BOST have been accused of supporting the BDCs to rob the oil storage company of petroleum products. Speaking at a news briefing on Monday, Chief Executive Officer of the chamber, Senyo Hosi, dismissed the allegations but said a probe must be instituted into the matter. Kwachi Afreniama has more.
According to CEO of the bulk oil distribution company, a selectively leaked tape is being circulated to create an impression of allegations of bribery and corruption against him. Senyo Hosi adds that the content of the tape has nothing to do with the ongoing controversy.
The selective voice recording being circulated was not in any way related to the BOST stock audit. There is no confession to the allegations associated and concocted in respect of the stock audit. There is none. The tape that's being circulated by WhatsApp and all that is a confidential recording of my testimony 3 years ago before a ministerial committee, the Agbenato Committee, set up to look into complaints lodged by petroleum service providers, which includes us, of extortion by some BOST officials in time past.
The BDCs are equally unhappy with the BOST MD's handling of the entire saga.
The actions of the managing director of BOST, as enumerated above, has totally crushed our confidence in his ability to ethically and fairly engage with the industry in his capacity as the managing director on issues pertaining to BDCs, BOST, as well as other players. The issues raised are very serious issues, and we humbly call on His Excellency the President and the Honorable Minister of Petroleum to kindly constitute an investigative committee to look into the issues of reconciliation and allegations of bribery, as well as the leakage of the confidential tape.
The chamber is also questioning the content of an audit report by accounting firm Ernst & Young into its operations.
The Ernst & Young Group draft report itself contained quite some inaccuracies. Some findings represented in the report tend to question the thoroughness of the work done so far and the depth of the engagement with key officials whose institutional memory may be required to establish and understand the facts. A case in point is the assertion that one company, Petroleum, a BDC, had overdrawn balances in August and September of 2011. It will interest you, of 2010 rather, it will interest you to know that Petroleum only commenced operating from BOST in January 2011. How can a BDC yet to commence operations overdraw on stocks?
Senyo Hosi says no official of the bulk oil distribution company was contacted before the report was put together. Officials of BOST have, however, declined comment on the matter immediately. Kwachi Afreniama for Joy News.
Meanwhile, a board member of the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation, BOST, Kofi Adams, has told Joy News they never set out to malign anybody, but indicated there was the need to set the record straight to prevent the nation's purse from bleeding further.
Of our knowledge, the report is accurate. Ernst & Young is not a company that does shoddy job, not at all. We don't know them for that. I know this report will, the BDCs will not be too happy because people have been talking about the activities. In the past, you hear workers in Tor demonstrating against BDCs, some workers in BOST also demonstrating. Anytime they have made this, you read their placards, they are saying something about BDC. No proper evidence has actually been abused. But today, we are seeing these things come out. So they know very well that the country will in a way react in a certain way against them. And I can understand that this is some of the defense mechanisms that they are adopting. We are not out there to blackmail anybody. Neither are we out there to cover anything, because the MD who has just taken over, Kwame Wadako, is doing so well to move the company from a loss-making company to a profit-making company. And the workers are very happy about activities going on there. The board is very, very supportive of activities to salvage a very important company. Its bleeding dates back to the 2005, 2006 and thereabout, but we will stop it. The management and board is determined to stop it and make Bost a very profitable company.
Well, still on this subject, Deputy Petroleum Minister Benjamin Dagadu says the report received has been forwarded to the National Security for further investigations. He was speaking to my colleague Evans Mensah.
When the report was given to us last week, the first thing we did was to refer it to the National Security Coordinator, who then give it to the police, the CID or IOCO, which one he feels more comfortable. So the case is now before them to investigate.
So what it is national security is now in charge of looking into the claims of fraud.
Yes.
I see. And that then clears the air. You have the Ernst & Young report already at the ministry?
Yes, we had it last week.
Because I've heard the BDC say that there is no final document anywhere, and what is in existence that has been reported is a draft document. What you have is a final document?
That's what we have.
And I guess it was submitted to you by the Bost?
Yes.
Okay. In other words, there is an official document which contains all the allegations that we've heard last week against the BDCs.
We didn't see any implicating the BDCs aside.
I see.
Not that we are clear of. We saw the report is not accusing any BDC or any wrongdoing aside.
Instead, individuals.
Yes.
Okay. Now, so what do you make then of the BDC's claim today that any probe into this matter must involve or must also look at the conduct of the managing director of the Bost, because they believe he had also erred, in fact, doctored some aspects of the audit report in letters, etc. They produced some of them to back their claim. Is that something that the ministry is looking into also, as far as the national security is concerned?
Now, the Institute of Economic Affairs is accusing governments of not doing enough to tackle corruption in the country. Executive Director of the Institute, Jane Mensah, says government has failed to show real interest in ridding the country of the canker. My colleague Kwachi Afreniama is at an IEA forum on corruption and joins me on phone with more on this. Kwachi, so Jane Mensah doesn't seem to believe in government's efforts at eradicating corruption. Is that the case?
Yes, indeed, she says that there's no real effort on the side of government at sanctioning corrupt officials, and mentions that over the years, with examples we've seen of JIDA, SADA, and so on, and public officials, government officials who have been involved or implicated in these scandals, government has not shown any real commitment. We've not seen any real sign beyond the talk of prosecuting these officials, and indeed she also mentions that on the side of agencies that have also been mandated to deal with acts of corruption in this country, notably the Auditor General Department, SHRAJ, and so on. She describes their conduct as tragic, and she says that these agencies have failed to live up to expectation. But one other speaker at this forum, Archbishop Palmer Bako, also talks about the issue of corruption and the fact that corruption must remain at the front hold of discussions, and that's his view of how we can deal with these problems. And he asked a question that made many people laugh, and the question was whether we have honest men at all in this country. And he thinks that it's difficult at this stage to find public officials who really in the job to serve the people. Most public officials go appointed, all they do is corrupt the system, enrich themselves, and no real effort on their side at serving the people, really.
I see. Any recommendations so far, or they're just accusing people?
Well, recommendations will be issued at the end of this forum. Of course, there are a number of high-level personalities here from various. You have representatives from political parties. I've seen General Secretary of the NDC, Johnson Dunketia of the MPP as well. Kwabena Japan is here from the from academia. Professor Yanka himself is delivering a keynote address. And in fact, one key point he has made so far, I'm sure we will be bringing listeners more details of that. He says that the presidency currently seems to have become a safe haven for corrupt officials because over the past few years, since government took office, once again, a number of public officials who have been implicated in scandals, mainly at the presidency, nothing has happened to them, and the impression is firmed up that you have to be, once you are in public office, once you work at the presidency, you are implicated in any of these corruption scandals. Nothing is done about it. You can go scot-free.
So she sees the presidency as a safe haven for corrupt officials?
Certainly, Henry, and he talks about the Maputo report. He mentions the fact that the World Cup and how the entire matter came up. I'm talking about the World Cup in Brazil recently, and how some state officials, government officials, the sports minister himself at the time was implicated in the whole mess, as many have described it. He was given another appointment at the presidency, and he thinks that this really fans that point that it become a safe haven for corruption.
I see. Kwacha Frenema, thank you very much. It'll be interesting to see how this thing unfolds, particularly bearing in mind that the General Secretary of the opposition, of the ruling National Democratic Congress, is actually also present at the place. We'll keep a close eye on that and bring you further details as and when we have them. Now, safety is premium to most people in Ghana, and for many, they don't mind paying the extra cost for that. The Ghana Police Service between January and February commissioned 185 new police stations that were built with support from some private entities and residents. One of these new police stations is located at New Ogbojo, from where Derek Ekosam reports that residents there say every dime they spent in getting the police station running was worth it.
For 16 years, residents of Ogbojo had to deal with a major challenge: burglary. They lost properties worth millions of Ghana cedis within that period. To solve this, residents formed an association to be each other's keeper. But being each other's keeper was not enough to stop the incessant burglaries. Upon consultation with some security experts, residents concluded that police presence in the area might do the trick. For 4 years, residents contributed into a fund for the construction of what has become the only police station in the area.
Actually, it was very difficult for us because members at first didn't understand the rationale behind, but later on they all came on board, and then with our contributions, materially, financially, we were able to put up this police station. We also had help from the Adenta Municipal Assembly and a few other members of parliament, old members of parliament who are also members here.
Before the police station was built, tell me, what was the crime rate in the area?
Oh, it was very, very high. You know, this area was a new residential area, and a lot of squatters are here. And I remember even myself was attacked by armed robbers in 2008. And a few colleagues of ours also were attacked by armed robbers. So the crime was very high. So but actually that necessitated the putting up of this policing to actually get the security in this area beefed up.
The residents now feel safe, but still spend money on another key basic amenity: water. The road network in the area is also another source of worry for residents.
The roads are very, very bad, very, very. It's recently that the community will mobilize ourselves and went to the municipal assembly to ask for the grader. We fueled the grader and we motivated the driver, and we graded part of the roads. A bit, but we are still pleading if the government can come to our aid, or the urban roads.
Almost 17 years I've been living here, and we don't have water. You know, in Accra, it's easy to get pipe water to drink, but here we buy water, about 100 Ghana cedis for about 3 or 4 weeks. And we told the water company about 4 or 5 years ago, we went there, we did our best, we find a booster, and they came, they said they were going to help us so that we can get water. And up to now, there has been nothing like that.
Till a solution is found to these other challenges, residents of New Ogbojo may have to spend a little more than is required on water and servicing of their vehicles. For Joy News, this is Derek Ekosam.
Derek Ekosam from New Ogbojo there. We're taking a break here. We'll be back with some more news. Stay on.